In the name of the God who loves us and calls us to respond. I had given a sermon. I was a guest preacher at a church, and I was standing at the entranceway greeting people as they were leaving. And this man, who I didn't know, hallelujah, I have to share this. It's so fun. Did you just hear some funny noises? Oh, you guys are wonderful. Here's the story. What I love about my time, Ken Thompson would move up here, and forgiveness for those of you who may not know him, although perhaps most of you do. He would come up here to begin his sermon, and my favorite part is our family would be somewhere probably in this row. And Grandma would be sitting there, and us grandkids would be waiting with, waiting and waiting, not for the sermon, but for Grandma's candies. And out they'd come up for a purse, and we'd all get passed down the row, and they all had wrappers on them. And I was sharing this story sometime recently. And later in life as an adult, I thought, gosh, I wonder how he felt. And as soon as he started to talk from our row, it was so fun.
Priceless.
It is priceless, yeah. Isn't faith marvelous? It's got so many aspects to it, and that's a very happy memory for me in our church here. So I was thinking about, when I read Hebrews 11:1, what came to my mind was this man and the story of what happened that day. So I just would like to share that with you. I was standing at the entranceway, and folks were leaving, and he came up to me. I'd never seen him before. I had no idea who he was, and he leaned close enough so no one else could hear him, and he said, "I've never told anyone this before. I served in Vietnam. My troop was ambushed. Just before it happened, I felt a hand. It came out of nowhere, and it pushed me so heavily I fell to the ground. And that was the only reason I wasn't slaughtered along with the rest of my men." Wow. I said to him, well, perhaps he was the hand of God. And he looked at me, and he was thinking, and I wonder if he's still wondering, trying to understand. And he just turned around and left. And he's the person I thought of when I heard what Alfie read first this morning in Hebrews 11:1, that faith is the assurance of things we hope for and the conviction of the things we can't see. He didn't see anybody, he felt a hand. And that led me on a whole journey of reflection. So I'm going to put in front of you the question that I've spent some time thinking about and in prayer about, and that is my faith open to learning about my God from the experiences of not just listening to my life, but the lives of others, like this man? Am I open to that? Or do I have to be like the person we call Doubting Thomas, who 1 week after all the other apostles had seen, Jesus rise from the dead, and he hadn't, and he said, as far as I'm concerned, it's not real, I have not seen it. And I thought, is that the kind of faith I want? And so I'm going to put this question in front of you and throw some ideas at you, and that is your faith journey open to challenge your own assumptions about who is your God as you experience different things in life? And humanly speaking, we aren't really very good at that. I know I'm not. Like the area of science, I think, is a really good example. We have this thing in science that you might call human arrogance. For example, when we used to look into the sky, we would see areas that people call black holes. Remember that? And guess what we thought were in black holes? Nothing. Well, that's human arrogance. Along comes the Hubble telescope, and not only do they see something in those black holes, which aren't black anymore, they see galaxies upon galaxies that have suns like ours, and planets, and maybe even Earths and stars. Well, that expands my sense of who is God. Because when I hear something like that, I think, well, God's been busy. Am I open to that? And I love the way there's this researcher out of the University of Houston, Dr. Brene Brown. And I really like the way she describes this. She says, I don't trust a theologian who dismisses the beauty of science, or a scientist who doesn't believe in the power of mystery. And I think all of that has the potential to open our perception of who is God and re-examine some of the things we might have been taught. I know in seminary, I had chosen a multi-denominational seminary. So as you can imagine, in any one classroom where you put together Methodists and Baptists and Messianic Jews and Catholics and Anglicans, we had a few different points of view. And a lot of jokes I never got. But the reality was we were taught to be respectful. I mean, we all believed who Jesus was, but from that point, boy, did we have different points of view, but we were taught we could be unified and faithful as a church, as a seminary. That really meant a lot to me. And as I thought about it, is my faith open to changing my assumptions and my beliefs about who is God? And I realized some of what I was taught in seminary, or some of my mentors who at that time were really influential, I have exactly the opposite point of view now with them on some things, and I still love them dearly, and I still have no clue if I'm right or they're right, and I don't really think it matters, because we're all perfectly made. So I was talking to a good friend of mine about this sermon, and she's in her 8th decade. And I said to her, what do you think? Has your faith changed at all, through life? And she said, it has, and I'll tell you why. Her family is Christian, and married into her family came another faith. And children were born, and initially she said, oh, was that a struggle? But she said, it's not anymore. When she's praying for something that's important to her, she says members of her now new extended family pray with her for this same stuff. And say, we're praying to the same God. And my friend said, she says, I think, and I'll just quote how she put it, she says, I think my faith is broadening, not narrowing as I get older. She said, perhaps your life is designed to broaden our experience of faith. And then she said something that is really resonating in my ears. She said, Cheryl, who am I to know the face of God? Wow, who am I to know the faces of God? We can all just, as Joan said recently in one of her sermons, we can all just seek. And that's all that's asked of us, just seek. And I thought of one other example I'll share with you. It happened recently. Our minister in Tucson, this past winter, he went back to his home state to bury his nephew's wife. She was 40. Just stopped breathing. No previous indicators or problems, no symptoms. And I want to share with you what he said to us. And it's not because I'm advocating this point of view. That would be the opposite of my point. It's more, he gave me the language to help me reconcile the life I'm living and what I've experienced with my sense of who is God. So what Father Steve said was, he said, I hope not many of you here still believe in the cause and effect God. Sometimes stuff just happens. And he said, my poor nephew was agonizing and saying, what did my wife do to deserve this? And our minister said, no, that's not our point. And I thought that makes a lot of sense. And Father Steve went on to say, what happens is when we live through the agony of really tough stuff, we can't help but revert to first century Christianity. And even Jesus addressed this in Luke 13. Jesus tells in the very beginning of that particular chapter a situation, and Jesus prompts two examples where he says, look, those 18 people that died when that tower fell down in Jerusalem, they weren't worse than other people. And Jesus several times says that, so Jesus was trying to speak that into our lives. And as Father Steve talked about that, I thought, yeah, I lost my godmother at a very early age because of a car accident not caused by her. I lost a first cousin who didn't even get to be a young woman because of a car accident caused by her. I was slammed in, I'm laughing now, but it wasn't put at the time. I was at a red light 4 years ago on a Sunday afternoon, and I was hit from behind by a driver going 55 miles per hour who was led away in handcuffs with an extreme DUI. The only reason I was at that intersection is because a colleague of mine was having financial trouble. Her fridge was empty. I went grocery shopping, filled her fridge, and happened to be at that intersection 1 hour later than I normally would. I frankly think stuff happens. Now, that's a different way of viewing things, but you know what I think has happened for me is by being open to examining my own assumptions, because they're all imperfect, or the assumptions of my culture, my family, my seminary profs, and say, does this still make sense to me? And go back to the Bible and read it and go, you know, I think perhaps it means something different. And it actually has helped me make my faith stronger. Because I can stand on that. I can say, yeah, I didn't mess up the Friday before that guy decided to drink too much Sunday morning. I don't believe that's my God. And so I just offer to you today that question for you to take inside for your own reflection, which is, can you embrace a living faith that allows you to feel comfortable and safe? Changing, perhaps, some assumptions, some interpretations. Allow life to inform you and go, not be threatened by that, but go, you know what, my God is probably bigger than this. He's more inclusive. He's more loving. And know that that's just fine, because when we all pass on, my sense is none of us will have got it 100% right, so we're all in. And that's my encouragement for you today, so that you can grab onto Hebrews 11:1 and you can say, my faith is the assurance of things that I hope for. And it is the conviction of things I don't have to see.